Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you all are doing well this afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Judge.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon, Judge.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let's see. Miss Champion, is Miss Bridgewater hosting this afternoon? I mean, is Miss Bridgewater?
Yes, she's gonna be the litigation manager for this afternoon, Judge. Hold on one second, I'll get her to log on.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Your Honor. Courtroom 2 is ready.
Okay, good afternoon. Who are we going to start with this afternoon?
Position 1, Mr. Benton.
Good afternoon, Mr. Benson. I'm Judge Eric Morrow. This is the State Court Expedited Accusation Calendar that we're conducting by video. Do you agree to have your case heard by video?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon to you as well.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Benson, you've been charged in case 23 CR 001453E with battery family violence. Is there a history? Who do we have on from pretrial today?
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Officer Harvey.
Hi, good afternoon, Officer Harvey. Good to see you.
You too. Yes, the defendant has a total of 29 cycles out of Georgia, 1 cycle out of Florida, a 2010 possession of marijuana less than an ounce conviction, 2012 simple battery family violence, 2013 simple battery family violence, probation violation in 2013, 2013 driving on a suspended license, 2014 probation violation, 2016 aggravated assault that was taken under first offender, which was sealed in 2020, 2016 FTA, 2017 probation violation, 2018 probation violation and FTA, 2018 theft by shoplifting, and 2019 driving on a suspended license, hit and run, duty of driver to stop, and a DUI. Also a 2019 probation violation. Nothing further.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Ms. Lewis.
Good afternoon, Judge. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
This incident occurred yesterday at 812 Magnolia Way Northwest, apartment 1112. Officers responded to a dispute call and spoke with Ms. Shatara Hawkins. Her first name is Shatara. Upon arrival, Hawkins stated that she and the defendant, who is her live-in boyfriend who they share a child with, were in a verbal altercation when the defendant got irate and very physical with her. Hawkins attempted to leave the bedroom, and the defendant grabbed Hawkins by the hair and pushed her against the bedroom wall. The defendant then grabbed Hawkins by the neck, to which Hawkins suffered cuts on her neck. Hawkins once again tried to leave the bedroom, but the defendant grabbed her by the hair again, also by her shirt, causing her shirt to rip. Your Honor, the state is concerned about this defendant given his history. He has a few simple battery convictions in his record, as well as the aggravated assault. And for this reason, the state will be recommending a $7,500 surety bond, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons, no further contact with the victim, to stay away from this address, and third-party transfer of their child. Your Honor, I also want to note that we were able to speak with the victim this morning, and she stated this isn't the first time the defendant has been physical with her. This is just the first time it's been reported. She stated about 2 or 3 years ago, the defendant choked her to the point where she passed out and thought she was going to die. She is very afraid of him and wants nothing to do with him and doesn't want him to come back to the home. So that also factors into our bond recommendation. Nothing further. Oh, Your Honor, I'm not aware if she's on the line, but if so, we'd like to sound for her at the appropriate time.
Good afternoon, Mr. Judd. Is this your case?
It is, Your Honor.
You proceed.
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, Mr. Benson is 31 years old. He's lived in Georgia his entire life. He has lived at the current address for the past 6 years. He is a graduate of Booker T. Washington High School. His entire family is here in Georgia. Your Honor, he also owns a nonprofit where they help out homeless women and children called Women Are Inc. Your Honor, he has strong ties to the community. He does have multiple children. However, he does have one for whom he provides primary care that lives with him at the address that is also the incident location. Your Honor, he has lived at that address for quite a while, so a stay away order would make things incredibly hard for him. He may be able to live with some other family, but if the court is inclined to grant the stay away order, we would ask that he at least be allowed to return to the location with law enforcement to pick up his belongings. Your Honor, we would ask, since the complaining witness is the mother to his child, we would ask that instead of no contact, that it be no violent contact, so that he may be able to pick up his child and spend time with his child. Your Honor, we are asking that he be considered for a signature bond.
Let's see, is Ms. Hawkins on the line? If you are Ms. Hawkins, this is your opportunity to address the court if you choose to. I don't believe I see anyone else on the line, Ms. Lewis. As such, it's going to be a $5,000 good bond, no further contact with Ms. Hawkins, given Ms. Hawkins's desire and the fact that this happened allegedly just yesterday. Stay away from the Magnolia Way address. Mr. Benson can go back to that address on one occasion with law enforcement to retrieve any belongings that he might have there. I'm certainly not going to keep him away from any from his child. As such, he can have third-party transfer for visitation of the child. All right. Good luck to you, Mr. Benson.
Thank you, Your Honor. And for the record, Mr. Benson does not qualify for our services, so today's representation was just for the purposes of bond.
Okay, very good.
Judge,
Position,
did you include a no alcohol, drugs, or weapons in your conditions? I know the state recommended, but I'm not sure if I heard you say that.
Yes, and it will be no drugs, alcohol, or weapons while out on bond. Thank you, Ms. Lewis.
Thank you.
Who do we have next?
position 2, Cartwright.
Good afternoon.
The state will be recommending a breakout for this position.
Okay, well, can we take Mr. Cartwright later on then?
Can we do position number 12 next, please, in courtroom number 3?
Any other cases today that we're gonna need a breakout room besides number 2?
Yes, I do have one for Ocasio case.
What,
I'm trying to find
what position is that, Ms.
number
Kim?
8. Number 8, Your Honor.
Okay, we'll do all the breakouts at the same time, so. I'm sorry, tell me again, who do we have in courtroom 3?
Position number 12.
12, thank you, Sergeant. Good afternoon, Ms. Singh. I'm Judge Eric Morrow. This is the state court expedited accusation calendar that we're conducting by video. Do you agree to have your case heard by video?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Singh, you've been charged in case 23 CR 001460C with loitering and prowling. Is there a history, Officer Harvey?
Your Honor, this is the first arrest.
Okay. Good afternoon, Ms. Bickerstaff.
Good afternoon, Judge. How are you?
Doing well, thank you.
Good. So, Your Honor, this incident happened yesterday about 1 a.m. where the defendant was attempting to use a set of keys to open the apartment building located at 413 Royal Creek Drive in Roswell. The name of the apartment complex is Manchester at Manswell Apartments. The defendant informed the police that she found the keys in a locked mailbox and then attempted to open the door. The defendant does not live in the apartment, and Miss Ann Joseph was the witness who saw the defendant trying to get in the apartment. For these reasons, Your Honor, the state is recommending a $3,000 signature bond through pretrial services and a stay away order at the 413 Royal Creek Drive in Roswell address, which is the Manchester at Manswell Apartments. And no further contact with Ms. Ann Joseph.
Who's representing Ms. Singh? Can someone tell me if anyone's interviewed Ms. Singh? Ms. Kim, Mr. Judd, Ms. McLeod?
Yeah, she was interviewed. She talked to Ms. Kim.
Exactly.
Okay,
And I apologize. What
okay.
was the last name, Your Honor?
Position number 12, Ms. Singh, Ms. Kim.
Yes, I do have it. I apologize, Your Honor.
All right, the recommendation was a $3,000 signature bond. I'm gonna sit through pretrial. I'm gonna send that through the jail. Stay away from the Rural Creek Drive address. No further contact with Ms. Joseph, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons while out on bond. Does that suit you, Ms. Kim?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, good luck to you, Ms. Singh.
Position 3, Mr. Cashman.
Good afternoon, Mr. Cashman. I'm Judge Eric Morrow. This is the State Court Expedited Accusation Calendar that we're conducting by video. Do you agree to have your case heard by video?
Yes, sir, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Thank you. You also. Mr. Cashman, you've been charged in case 23 CR 001462H with criminal trespass and public drunk. Is there a history?
Yes, Your Honor. One cycle out of North Carolina from 2016. It was a felony conviction for maintaining a vehicle in a dwelling place and also for possession with intent to distribute marijuana. Nothing further.
Lewis?
Yes, Your Honor. This incident occurred yesterday at the Gaslight Bar, which is located at 890 Atlanta Street in Roswell. Officers were conducting a zone patrol at this location when they were asked by management to help disperse the remaining patrons. Officers observed the defendant leave the bar and stumble into the parking lot. They also observed him failing to maintain his balance and using a glass wall to keep himself from falling. At this time, the officer told the defendant that he needed to leave the property. Once they approached him, they also could smell alcohol emitting from his mouth, and his face was very flushed. The defendant began to walk to the sidewalk, but he still did not leave the property. Officers once again told the defendant to leave, which the defendant responded, "I'm not fucking leaving." The officer and the owner told the defendant several more times to leave, to which he repeated that statement. And after several verbal commands from the officers, the defendant was placed under arrest. Your Honor, the state will be recommending a $2,000 signature bond through pretrial services. That's $1,000 on each count. No alcohol, drugs, or weapons, and to stay away from the Gaslight Bar located at 890 Atlanta Street. Nothing further.
Instead of going through pretrial, I'm going to send it through the jail. You have any objection to any of that, Mr. Judd?
We do not, Your Honor.
Okay, so it'll be a $2,000 signature bond through the jail. Stay away from the Gaslight Bar, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, Mr. Cashman.
Thank you, Your Honor. And Mr. Cashman also did not qualify for our services. Today's representation was just for the purposes of bond.
Okay, thank you.
Position number 5 is next, please, Judge.
Okay. Good afternoon, Ms. Howard. I'm Judge Eric Morrow. This is the State Court Expedited Accusation Calendar that we're conducting by video. Do you agree to have your case heard by video? Thank you. Ms. Howard, you've been charged in case 23 CR 001455E with simple battery. Is there a history, Officer Harvey?
This is the first arrest, Your Honor.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes, Your Honor. And before I begin, we do have a co-defendant at position 4. So if we can hear that case right after. But this incident occurred on March 11th at 320 Fairburn Road Southwest. Officers responded to a noise complaint at the location, and upon arrival, the officers saw several people outside and noticed an argument ensuing between Kayla Marissa and the defendant, which turned into a physical altercation. The defendant and Ms. Marissa were in an argument about Marissa's music being too loud. The argument escalated to a fight after curse words were exchanged, and the defendant admitted to punching Kayla in the face. Your Honor, we spoke with the victim this morning, who I believe is also online, and she said she's very afraid of this defendant. She said after this incident, the defendant's sisters called some guys to come over to her apartment, and about 7 men showed up standing outside with guns. The victim plans to file a TPO, and she wants absolutely no contact with the defendant. Your Honor, for these reasons, we will be recommending a $3,000 surety bond, no further contact, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons, and to stay away from this location. And we would like to sound for Ms. Marissa at the appropriate time.
And what is the full name of the alleged victim, Ms. Lewis?
Kayla Marissa,
Spell the last name for me.
Marissa.
Ms. Marissa, I see that you're on the line. I'll give you the opportunity to speak in turn, but just hold on for me for a moment. And is this your case, Ms. McLeod?
It is, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Oh, good afternoon. Good to see you as always. You can proceed.
Your Honor, I was hoping that she would go first. I'd like to hear what she has to say.
Okay, that's fine. Ms. Marissa, if you would like to address the court, now is your opportunity to do so. You do not have to address the court, but if you would like to address the court, I need for you to raise your right hand for me. Do you swear from the testimony you're about to give before this court be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, you can put your hand down. Thank you, ma'am. And before I hear from you, Ms. Marissa, courtroom 2, is that Mr. Gill that we have?
Yes, it is.
Okay, I'm just going to do these at the same time. Mr. Gill, I'm Judge Eric Morrow. This is the state court expedited accusation calendar that we're conducting by video. Do you agree to have your case heard by video?
Okay, how y'all doing? Yes.
Yes, okay, good. Thank you, Mr. Gill. You've been charged in case 23 CR 001454E with battery. Is there a history in this case?
Yes, Your Honor. There are 6 cycles. 2009 conviction. I'm sorry, that was first offender. It was theft by shoplifting, sealed in 2017. 2011 probation violation. And the last arrest was possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony, possession of a firearm by a first offender probationer, aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, criminal attempts to commit robbery. That appears to be an active probation case. That's disposition date was September 11th, 2020, received 3 years probation and 5 years probation consecutive to, on the firearm, it's a 5-year consecutive sentence of probation and nothing further.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Marissa, what would you like to tell the court?
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Her and her sister, they came down and attacked me. I was 3 of them. They came from upstairs and all 3 of them attacked me on the scene. They detained one of the sisters' friend or whatever they supposed to be. They came down all 3, and only thing that Mr. Gills was doing is trying to push the all 3 of the females that attacked me. I have knots on my forehead from them all 3 of them attacking me. My last name is Miss Cullins. The middle name, that's my middle name. My last name, I go by Miss Cullins, Cullins.
Thank you, Ms. Cullen. Let me see. So what are you telling the court that Mr. Gill allegedly did?
He was trying to push them out my door when all 3 of the girls attacked me in my home. They came down here and attacked me. It was her and 2 other females that was on the scene when the police came.
Okay, he's charged with battery.
Battery, correct. But they just were throwing charges on people. Only thing that Mr. Gill was doing is trying to push the ladies off of me and get them off of me, or try to break up the fight between them. Jumping on me, all 3 of the females.
Okay, so Mr.
So
Gill,
I'm glad that he was here. It could have been worse than that.
Okay, and so what are you saying that Ms. Howard allegedly did to you?
She physically hit me. She hit me several times. The other 2 females that were with her also did the same thing to me. I talked to a supervisor that came out and gave me all 3 of their names because I didn't know now one of their names.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Ms. Cullen. Anything further?
No, sir.
All right, we appreciate it. Yes, Ms. McLeod.
Yes, I have a question for.
Okay, go ahead.
Isn't it true that my client merely came by? She's your neighbor, isn't she?
These questions are for you, Ms. Cullen. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Is it true that my client is your neighbor?
Correct.
And isn't it true that she just came by to express to you that she had a baby with her and if you could turn the noise down?
No, they came down very rude, very nasty, and started attacking me and going back and forth and being nasty, saying things to me. And then they all attacked me, was in my face. And then they all played a part and putting hands on me, punching me. But I told them they she could have came down here if she's my neighbor, started coming down, trying to be aggressive and try to fight me and jump on me. They just came down trying to jump on me and fight me. They didn't try to talk it out or anything like that.
Isn't it true that your boyfriend, the cross-defendant there, dragged my client into your apartment and locked the door?
No, I disagree. No, that did not work
My
out.
client, yes or no?
No.
And my client was never in your apartment?
She was in my apartment when the police came, but he didn't drag her in. What you're saying, no, he didn't drag her in.
Well, how did she get in there?
When she was pulling, when they jumped me, I had her by her hair.
Oh.
When they jumped on me, I had her by her hair. They were pushing me inside my unit when all of them was jumping on me.
I'm surprised.
That's how she was in. That's how she was.
Reason why they didn't
in my
arrest
unit.
you. You dragged my client by the hair. That's your own admission.
No, I had her by her hair while all three of them was dragging me and jumping on me.
Your Honor, I'd like to object. There'll be another time to prove the facts of this case.
Okay, anything further, Ms. McLeod, of this witness?
Nothing further, Your Honor. My client is 21 years old. She has absolutely no criminal history. She was babysitting her niece, and very loud noise was coming from the complaining witness's unit. And she tells me that she actually knows the complaining witness. She's bought a few stuff from her before, because I think she says she sells candy or something. So she knows her. She thought they had a relatively decent relationship, and she just went down there to ask her to turn the noise down because she had a small baby, and she attacked her. And then her boyfriend came out, grabbed my client, took her inside of the apartment and started punching her. My client didn't walk into their apartment. The boyfriend attacked my client, and I needless to say, as the court can see, he has quite a record, and a violent record too. He attacked my client. My client doesn't have any history, as I said, Your Honor. I would ask the court to give her a signature bond so she can get out of jail and get on with her life.
Your Honor, I'd just like to reiterate that since this time, the victim has been intimidated by the defendant's family.
Okay.
Are there any police reports, counsel, concerning that?
Not at this moment, but I'm sure the victim would be happy to file one.
Okay, I'm just concerned about my client. My client has done nothing. All she did was ask the complaining witness to turn the noise down so that our baby could sleep.
Which doesn't require two other females to go down with her, but nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay. Let's see, Ms. Lewis, I want to move on to, do you have a recitation for Mr. Gill? I've already heard from Ms. Cullen regarding her allegations as far as what he did. What would the state like to say about that? For
this case, the same facts. We would like to add that the defendant did try to intervene in the fight between his girlfriend and the victim. In this case, Ms. Howard, Christy Howard, and the defendant pulled Howard by her hair, causing 3 of her braids to be removed from her scalp. And for that reason, the state is recommending a $3,000 signature bond through pretrial services, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons, and no further contact.
All right, so for position 5, Ms. Howard, it's going to be a $3,000. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Judd. Would you like to say anything in regards to your client? A signature bond has been recommended for your client by the state. Anything further, Mr. Judd?
Just briefly, Your Honor. Yes. Excuse me. Mr. Gill is aware that he is on probation, as was mentioned by pretrial. He has been keeping up with it regularly. Your Honor, he is fine with the no further contact with the complaining witness, the co-defendant. Your Honor, he is fine with a stay away order from Miss Christy Howard's apartment. However, a stay away order from the entire apartment complex would be difficult, as he does live with his girlfriend, Miss Kayla Marissa Culler, at that same apartment complex. So we would ask for, instead of a stay away order from the complex, simply a stay away order from Miss Howard's apartment.
Okay. Yes, Miss Cullen.
Well, I went straight to the rent office this morning and stated that I was going further to get a TPO out on Miss, the one that one of the women that attacked me. And they said they was tell her to stay, and the people that's on top of me, because she don't stay over, she's staying with someone. So they're saying they're gonna tell her not to come, and they said they sorry that I got attacked.
Well,
So
here's
we have had our talk with the upstairs neighbor. We went to the rent off this morning, because I truly went to the rent off and I was fear and still is a little bit. So with that being said, they said they was gonna tell Miss Christie that she can't come back on the property. So they can keep that unit.
Okay, I'm gonna let the apartment complex deal with all that. Thank you, Ms. Cullen.
And
So
Your Honor, one last thing, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to place on the record, the state's recommendation in regard to Mr. Gill is in light of the new information that we heard today.
Okay, so for Ms. Howard, position 5 is going to be a $3,000 signature bond through the jail. No further contact with Ms. Cullen. Stay away from Ms. Cullen's residence, apartment, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons while out on bond. For Mr. Gill, it's going to be a $5,000 signature bond through the jail. No further contact with Ms. Howard. Stay away from Ms. Howard's apartment, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons while out on bond. Stay away if you all see each other in the street or in the apartment complex, you have to turn around and go the other way. Okay, so we have no more of this. All right, if nothing further, good luck to you all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Position 7, Ms. McClendon.
Good afternoon, Judge. Attorney Wanda Jackson for Tyreek McClinton.
Yes, good afternoon, Ms. Jackson.
I'm trying to start my video, Judge, for some reason.
Okay. Let's see. Mr. McClinton, I'm Judge Eric Morrow. This is the State Court Expedited Accusation calendar that we're conducting by video. Do you agree to have your case heard by video?
Yes, I do. Judge, it's saying the host has asked you to start. I'm trying to start, but I don't know.
Okay. So we'll see if we can get you on camera, Ms. Jackson. If not, I can, oh, there you are. Okay. All right. So, Ms. McClinton, you do agree to have your case heard by video?
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Yes, sir, I do.
Yes, good afternoon, sir. You've been charged in case 23 CR 001456H with improper or erratic lane change and driving under the influence of alcohol less safe. Officer Harvey, is there a history?
Yes, Your Honor. One cycle out of Georgia from 2015 out of Union City. Theft by shoplift in that case was dismissed. The last arrest was out of Florida from 2018 battery. That case was dismissed as well, Your Honor. Nothing further.
Ms. Jackson, why don't you just turn your camera off? I can hear you if that's fine with you. I don't know if your camera's working.
It's flickering. I don't know if it's
right.
I saw it, Judge. Yes.
Are you fine with just being on audio, Ms. Jackson?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you. Let's see, Ms. Lewis. Mr.
Yes,
Judd, did you have a question?
Yes, Your Honor. I did speak with Mr. McClinton before, while he was in jail. I was unsure if Attorney Jackson wanted to possibly have a breakout session with me. I'm not sure if she had a chance to interview Mr. McClinton.
I've known him since he was 5 years old, so.
Okay. All right.
All
All
right.
good then.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Judd. Ms. Lewis.
Yes, Your Honor. So this incident occurred yesterday at the intersection of Holcomb Bridge Road and Old Dogwood Road. Officers responded to an accident at this intersection, and upon arrival, the officer observed the defendant's vehicle crashed into the curb at the corner of Holcomb Bridge and Old Dogwood Road, with the defendant still in the vehicle. There were 2 other passengers who had already exited the vehicle. The defendant exited the vehicle and an officer asked him where he was coming from. The defendant responded the Gaslight Bar located at 890 Atlanta Street after he finished his shift as DJ. Officer observed the defendant's eyes as red and watery with a glazed appearance. The defendant confessed without provocation that I'm a little too intoxicated tonight, and I did not see the roundabout coming up. Officers noted that there was no roundabout anywhere near the accident location. The defendant also confessed to drinking tequila that night, and he also agreed to undergo the state-administered field sobriety test. Officers searched his vehicle before it was towed and found an empty or almost empty Casamigos tequila bottle in the defendant's book bag. Your Honor, for these reasons, the state is recommending a $3,500 surety bond. That's $500 on count 1, $3,000 on count 2, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons, and no driving without a valid Georgia license. Nothing further.
Jackson.
Thank you, Judge. Mr. McClinton is 25 years old, and as I stated, I've known him pretty much all of his life. We're church members. His parents, Arthur McClinton, Stephanie McClinton, have been in the Atlanta public school system as musicians, teachers for 35 years. I don't want to date anybody, but they're local treasures in Atlanta. His father, anything happening at Ebenezer, he's playing his saxophone, played at Dr. Coretta Scott King's funeral, and I'm sure many other things that have gone on at Ebenezer. So he lives at home with his parents. He completed 3 years at Jackson State, musical education major. He is DJing now, but he is a musician. His parents are musicians, and he's not going anywhere. He will appear. I wasn't aware of the history, but I did hear that they were dismissals. So I'd ask the court to consider that for what it is. I had no idea because, like I said, I've known him for all of his life. And I'm not surprised that he stayed in the car and that he spoke to the officers and that he did, as she stated, unsolicited gave responses, because that's the kind of young man he is, Judge. I don't think he needs a good bond. He lives at home with his parents. His mother is on the line. And I'd ask the court to give him a signature bond, or I lower that bond. There's no need for the monetary, for the surety bond, Judge. He's going to come to court. He's lived here all of his life, his parents all of his life. He's not going anywhere. And he doesn't need to drink. He knows that, Tyreek. So the alcohol is not going to be a part of his life. He needs to get the case dealt with. And I respectfully request that the court gives him a signature bond. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Thank you. For the improper red lane change, a $500 signature bond through the jail. For the DUI, a $1,500 signature bond through the jail, making a total of a $2,000 signature bond through the jail. No drugs, alcohol, or weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, Mr. McClinton.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Have the excuse, Judge.
Yes, have a good afternoon. Thank you.
Position number 6 is next, courtroom number 3.
Okay, and this is Ms. Barbara Johnson, is that right?
Yes.
Good afternoon, Ms. Johnson. I'm Judge Eric Morrow. This is the State Court Expedited Accusation Calendar that we're conducting by video. Do you agree to have your case heard by video?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Johnson, you've been charged in case 23 CR 001463F with simple battery family violence. Is there a history? Officer Harvey?
8 cycles, Your Honor. 2001 conviction for aggravated assault, or 1995 VGCSA, that was on the first offender. The last arrest was in 2003 for a probation violation. The underlying charge was the aggravated assault conviction. And nothing further, Your Honor.
Ms. Lewis?
Yes, Your Honor. This incident occurred yesterday at 1305 Marcy Street Southeast. Officers responded to a dispute call at this location and upon arrival spoke to all the parties present. Patricia Daniel, who's the victim in this case, stated that she was seated on the couch in the living room when the defendant approached her demanding money. Daniel refused to give the defendant any money, which made the defendant angry and agitated. The defendant began to get in Daniel's face and personal space, which made Daniel stand up. At this point, a scuffle ensued between the two. And one of the parties in the house, Mr. Coggins, the warrant does not provide his first name, Your Honor, but Mr. Coggins attempted to intervene between the defendant and Ms. Daniels, but that wasn't before the defendant pushed Ms. Daniels, causing her to fall, striking the coffee table on the way down. Your Honor, for these reasons, the state will be recommending a $3,000 surety bond, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons, to stay away from this location, no further contact, and 1 day of anger awareness. Nothing further.
Is this your case?
It is my case. Your Honor.
Oh, okay. You can proceed.
My client is 67 years old. She has been in the Metro Atlanta area all her life. She is disabled, Your Honor, and has been disabled since 2008. This is her home. Her niece, who is a complaining witness, and her husband have been essentially living off of my client for a while. My client has asked them to vacate her premises, and they essentially have refused to do so. They got into an argument with my client yesterday because my client was just asking them when are they going to leave her home. And, they got all belligerent with her. My client denies that she struck her niece, that her niece got up to attack her, and in so doing, the niece fell. She completely denies that she struck her niece. My client is older and feeble, Your Honor. She's disabled. She's not in a position to fight anyone. I think this is what she tells me. It's sort of a scheme by the niece to stay in her house by trumping up a charge against her aunt, who was generous enough to allow her and her husband to move into her home. I would ask the court to give my client a signature bond so she can get out of jail and take care of herself. She has illnesses and so on, and she is disabled. It would be unconscionable to tell my client not to go back to her own home simply because her niece, who is a much younger person, decided that she's going to call the police and her own aunt and make up a story. Nothing further on.
And Your Honor, I'd like to sound for Ms. Daniels if she's on the line at this time.
Daniel, if you are on the line, this is your opportunity to address the court if you choose. Does not appear so, Ms. Lewis. Ms. McLeod, let's see, since nobody has spoken to Ms. Daniels, Ms. Johnson is going to have to go through the eviction process to get, I guess, Ms. Daniel, and if it is her residence, Ms. Daniel and the other gentleman out of her home. I can't put them back together if there's going to be no further contact with Ms. Daniel. So she'll have to go through the eviction process. She can go back to that location on one occasion with law enforcement to see if Ms. Daniels is there. If Ms. Daniels is there, then Ms. Johnson's going to have to go through a proper eviction process to get her out of her home, and she can gather any belongings that she has and to take with her while she attempts to get Ms. Daniel out of the home. So it's going to be a $3,000 signature bond through the jail, no further contact with Ms. Daniels, a one-time escort to the Marcy Street address to see if Ms. Daniel is there. If Ms. Daniels is not there, then Ms. Johnson can stay there. If Ms. Daniel is there, then Ms. Johnson's going to have to find somewhere else to go in the meantime. No drugs, alcohol, or weapons while out on bond. All right.
Thank you.
Good luck to you, Ms. Johnson.
Position 10, Mr. Rimmers.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Rimmers. I'm Judge Eric Morrow. This is the State Court Expedited Accusation Calendar that we're conducting by video. Do you agree to have your case heard by video?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rimmers, you've been charged in case 23 CR 001458C with driving under the influence of alcohol, less safe, and improper erratic lane change. Is there a history?
No, Your Honor. This is the first duration one.
Ms. Bickerstaff.
Yes, Your Honor. So this incident occurred on March the 11th, 2023 at about 2:42 a.m. And it's where officers were observing the area of Alpharetta Street in Roswell. And the officer noticed the black Ram truck failing to maintain their lanes multiple times. So the officer commenced the traffic stop. And when the officer went to the truck, the officer asked the defendant where he was coming from. And the defendant replied, sleep. And then the officer also noticed extended damage to the front bumper of the car. And when the officer asked about the damage, the defendant told the officer he had hit a deer on a previous date. And so the officer noted in the police report that she smelled a strong odor of alcohol coming from the defendant, and that the defendant had slurred speech. He had inconsistent and delayed answers, such as when the officer asked again where he was coming from. This, for the second time, he stated that he was coming from work. And Your Honor, when the officer asked where the defendant worked, the defendant replied and said, I'm drunk. So when the officer asked for the defendant's driver's license, the defendant handed the officer a credit card. And lastly, while conducting the sobriety test, the defendant struggled to maintain his balance while exiting his truck. And so for these reasons, the state is asking for a $3,500 surety bond, $3,000 for the DUI, and $500 for the driving in proper lanes. And we're asking that the defendant is not driving while out on bond.
Kim?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Remmers is 44 years old and he was born in Illinois. He came to Georgia 2005. And ever since then, he's been here in Georgia. He's gainfully employed at Prima Flyers as a print production personnel, and he has been working there about a month. Before that, he had two jobs, kitchens and another print production. Your Honor, he has a bachelor's degree from Champaign University in Illinois, and he has one child. He has been here, he's responsible, he will come to the court. We would like to request for a signature on bond, especially for the lane change. We would like to request for a signature on bond through jail, DUI, signature on bond through pretrial. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. For the improper erratic lane change, a $500 signature bond through the jail. For the DUI, a $1,500 signature bond through the jail, makes for a total of a $2,000 signature bond through the jail. No drugs, alcohol, or weapons while out on bond. Good luck to you, Mr. Remmers.
Position 13, Mr. Sterling.
Good afternoon, Mr. Sterling. I'm Judge Eric Morrow. This is the State Court Expedited Accusation Calendar that we're conducting by video. Do you agree to have your case heard by video?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Sterling, you've been charged in case 23 CR 001464J with criminal trespass and simple battery. Is there a history, Officer Harvey?
There's no simple battery.
Hold on, Mr. Sterling.
I'm showing the first arrest, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Bickerstaff?
Yes, Your Honor. So this incident happened on March the 11th at about 7:20 in the morning at 275 Pryor Street, which is the Gateway Center. And this is where officers arrived to the Gateway Center, where the defendant had been asked to exit the premises several times by the security, Mr. Gonzalez, yet the defendant refused to leave. And when Mr. Gonzalez attempted to escort the defendant out of the premises, the defendant then grabbed Mr. Gonzalez and they both fell on the ground. And so for these reasons, Your Honor, the state is asking for a $2,000 surety bond, $500 for the criminal trespass, $1,500 for the simple battery. We're asking for no further contact with Mr. Gonzalez, no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while on bond, and to stay away from the Gateway Center. And again, that address is 275 Pryor Street. And if Mr. Gonzalez is on Zoom, I'd like to sound for him as well.
Okay, Mr. Gonzalez, if you are with the court and you wish to participate this afternoon, now would be your opportunity. Doesn't appear so, Ms. Bickerstaff. Ms. Kim?
Yes, Mr. Sterling is 28 years old and he is from South Carolina. He's been here in Georgia for about 2 to 3 days. He's passing by and he went to Gateway Center because they were feeding the homeless. He has been residentially challenged lately and he does not have a phone at this point. I was going to ask social worker services to visit and provide our housing services because he may stay here, he may not stay here, he's not sure. Right now, he has a job, odd jobs only. He walks in and he get paid that day and he does not have a job some days. So right now he is qualified for public defender services because of his financial hardships. He also has some college at Grayville Technology in South Carolina. And we would like to request for a signature on bond, especially criminal trespass part and also simple battery. He denies any kind of allegation to it was accidental. They fell out together, nothing to do with the beating or hitting. Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. It's going to be a $500 good bond per charge, a total of $1,000 good bond. No further contact with Mr. Gonzalez. Stay away from Gateway and on Prior Street. No drugs, alcohol, weapons, and a social worker visit to help with housing. Ms. Kim, the SAP reset date is March 28th. If you can have a social worker speak with him prior to that time, if he does not get out, I'd like to have a report at the SAP calendar. Your client has his hand up.
Mr. Sterling, judge has ruled. Please, if you have any question about the bond, you're more than welcome to ask me. I'll be happy to call you. You have a right to remain silent.
Who do we have next?
I just want to ask, has anybody seen a body cam or anybody seen the camera footage? Well, I'm about to get up.
Position 14, Mr. Timothy.
Good afternoon, Mr. Timothy. I'm Judge Eric Morrow. This is the State Court Expedited Accusation Calendar that we're conducting by video. Do you agree to have your case heard by video?
Yes, good afternoon, Judge. Yes, I am.
Thank you, Mr. Timothy. You've been charged in case 23 CR 001459G with simple battery. Is there a history?
2 cycles, Your Honor. That last arrest was in 1998 for a simple battery. There was no disposition listed. Nothing further.
Bickerstaff?
Yes, Your Honor. So this offense occurred yesterday morning at about 10:30 a.m. at the Amtrak station, which is addressed at 1666 Peachtree Road. And this is where the victim, Mr. Charles, I'm sorry if I mispronounced his name, Olacha, was loading luggage in his trunk. And the defendant approached him aggressively. And then the defendant and Mr. Charles began arguing, and then the defendant just punched Mr. Charles in his right eye. And all of this was witnessed by a Miss Nicole Foster. She was standing outside of Mr. Charles's taxi cab when it happened. Your Honor, the state is asking for a $2,000 surety bond to stay away from that Amtrak station located at 1666 Peachtree Road. We're also asking for no further contact with Mr. Charles Olacha. No alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond, and a 1-day anger awareness course, Your Honor. And if Mr. Charles O is on Zoom, I would like to sound for him as well.
And you want to spell the last name of Mr.
Yes,
Charles?
I'm sorry about that. His last name is spelled Olocha.
If Mr. Olachar is on the line, this is your opportunity to address the court if you choose. It doesn't appear so, Ms. Bickerstaff. Ms. Kim?
Yes, Your Honor, Mr. Timothy, he is 60 years old. He has been a single father of 4 children as a taxi driver, because as a cab driver, he has more flexible hours to take care of his children because their mother was not available. He had full custody of the 2 children is out of the 4 children. So, and this incident, my client denies the allegation. He's been here ever since from 1994, and he is currently working on his GED. He will come to the court, and we would like to request for a signature on bond. Thank you.
Was he driving, you say he's a taxi driver, Ms. Kim?
Yes.
And was he picking up someone at the Amtrak station? Was he on duty?
All the cab drivers, they park first come first service. Whoever comes first, they serve the customers, and it was Mr. Timothy's turn to serve the customer, but Mr. Charles basically cheated on him and kind of cut the line and took the customer, and he wanted to address the issue to him, and then he was punched as well.
Oh, okay, so they're both cab drivers.
Yes.
Okay. Anything further, Ms. Bickerstaff?
I would just like to say that the witness, Nicole Foster, she confirmed everything that was in the police report, that they were arguing and that the defendant punched Mr. Charles Olacha.
It's going to be a $2,000 signature bond through the jail. I'm not going to keep him away from the Amtrak station. That seems to be how he earns his money, but I am going to have no further contact with Mr. Olachar. No drugs, alcohol, or weapons while out on bond. So, Mr. Timothy, I'm not going to restrict, because of your work, I'm not going to restrict your work, but you can't have any contact with this Mr. Olachar while this is pending, okay?
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, good luck to you, Mr. Timothy.
Your Honor, I need to make a announcement for position 9 and 11. They waive their appearance.
9 is awarded.
And I have those waivers.
And 11, okay. And who do we have here?
We can go back to position 2. You was going to have a breakout session.
All right, so let's go into a breakout room now and discuss Mr. Cartwright. Who all needs to be in the breakout room? Oh,
I do, Your Honor.
wait. One moment. Who do we have in courtroom 3?
I'm sorry, Judge, this was position number 8.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. Again, so I guess everyone that's on screen needs to be in the breakout room, except for, of course, the courtrooms. So if you can put us all into a breakout room, please.
be.
Yes, ma'am.
Listen, let the judge them know when they come back. I just had a medical emergency with one of the females back here. I'm gonna log back on shortly, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, can you unmute courtroom 2 for me, and then I'll go to courtroom 3 after I speak with Mr. Cartwright. Good afternoon, Mr. Cartwright. I'm Judge Eric Morrow. We are conducting this by video. Do you agree to have your case heard by video?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Mr. Cartwright, you've been charged in case 23 CR 001461Y with simple battery. I've had an opportunity to discuss this charge with counsel in the matter. It's going to be a $3,000 signature bond through pre-trial per the judge, per me. Let's see, you'd have no further contact at this point in time with your brother, Mr. Boatwright. You also, it's my understanding, will have somewhere that you can stay besides the Mark Place address. So you're not going to be able to go back to 3482 Mark Place. You can go back there on one occasion with law enforcement to retrieve any belongings that you might have that you need to take with you, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons while out on bond. So I'm going to allow you to have a signature bond, but you're going to have to make sure to show back up when your next court date, okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, good luck to you, Mr. Cartwright. All right, so, and this is Ms. Ocasio in courtroom 3. Good afternoon, Ms. Ocasio. I'm Judge Eric Morrow. This is the state court expedited accusation calendar that we're conducting by video. Do you agree to have your case heard by video?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Ocasio, you've been charged in case 23 CR 001457B with simple battery family violence. I have also had the opportunity to talk with your counsel and the state regarding this matter. We did that in a breakout room because of the nature of the charge and your 16-year-old that's involved. Your bond is going to be a $3,000 signature bond through pretrial per the judge, 1-day anger awareness, no further violent contact with your daughter, Luz, and you're to follow any requirements or orders of DFACS. No drugs, alcohol, or weapons while out on bond. Okay. Good luck to you, Ms. Ocasio. All right, so we have, as my understanding, two waivers. Let's take position number 9 first. Does does Polk have a history?
Yes, Your Honor, 8 cycles, 2017 battery that was under first offender and sealed in 2018, 2017 FTA, 2018 probation violation, 2019 possession of marijuana less than an ounce and drugs not in original container. Also 2019 abandonment of dependent child. And the last arrest was in 2022 for probation violation. Nothing further.
Ms. Bickerstaff?
Yes, Your Honor, this incident happened yesterday morning at about 9 a.m. at the Greyhound train station, address 232 Forsyth Road. And this is where Mr. Philip Gordon, he was on the phone at the Greyhound bus station, and the defendant violently punched Mr. Gordon in the face and on his head. And the defendant was punching Mr. Gordon several times, where Mr. Gordon sustained a swollen right eye and a laceration to that right eye due to that attack. And so when officers approached the defendant, who was still at the bus station, he just turned around, the defendant turned around and placed his hands behind his back. Your Honor, I'll just like to highlight the defendant has a history of battery. He was convicted of battery in 2018. And for these reasons, Your Honor, the state's asking for a $4,000 surety bond, no further contact with Mr. Philip Gordon, to stay away from 232 Forsyth Road, the Greyhound train station. We're also asking for MHET and no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while out on bond.
Is your case, Ms. McLeod?
It is, Your Honor.
Okay, you can proceed.
Mr. Polk is 26 years old. He is currently unemployed and has been for some time, even though he tells me that he does have a little bit of college education. My client actually requested an MHET, Your Honor, so I have no objection to that. I believe that just may be helpful to him, and he does need some services because he's currently homeless, he tells me.
Okay.
So I would ask the court to take all of that into consideration in setting his bond, but we're going to consent to MHET.
So, Ms. Kim, are you with me?
Yes, I am with you.
Can you assist Ms. McLeod with that MHET for Mr. Polk? All right. So with that being said, it's going to be a $4,000 good bond. Stay away from the Greyhound bus station. No further contact with Mr. Gordon. No drugs, alcohol, or weapons, and an MHET. All right.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Kim. And finally, position 11, Mr. Sands. We know what he's charged with. Ms. Bickerstaff.
Yes, Your Honor. This incident happened March 9th, 2023 at Marshall's located at 2625 Piedmont Road. And this is where officers arrived to the Marshalls and where the store manager, his name is Mr. Dion Hope, pointed out the defendant who was flashing customers in the store. The defendant was lifting up his shirt to expose his private part to women and children, and the store manager, Mr. Dion Hope. He had on shorts, but they weren't secure around his waist. So while he was purposely lifting up his shirt. And so when officers approached the defendant and asked him about the incident, the defendant began rambling about off-topic things. And then the officers then arrested the defendant after much resistance from him. The police report noted that the Marshall's surveillance captured the defendant flashing the customers, Your Honor. And so the state is asking for a $5,000 surety bond. We're asking for no further contact with Mr. Dion Holt, the Marshall's store manager. We're asking for a stay away order from that Marshall's located at 2625 Piedmont Road. We're also asking for a SDET and no alcohol, drugs, or weapons while on bond.
Your Honor, I didn't hear anything about a history for my client.
Is there a history, Ms. Harvey?
Yes, Your Honor. 9 cycles, 2002, possession of marijuana less than an ounce, 2002 DUI. The last arrest was May 15th, 2021 with the Atlanta Police Department for theft by shoplifting. There was no disposition listed, Your Honor. Nothing further.
Wow.
My client is 44 years old. He tells me that he is currently unemployed. He tells me he's trying to finish up a college course, but right now he's having a little bit of difficulty with that, and he hasn't worked in a little while. He denies these allegations against him, Your Honor, and says that someone had approached him and made some kind of suggestive, wanting some kind of suggestive interaction. And that was, he was a little bit surprised and put off by that, but he doesn't remember acting in any manner that other people would think was objectionable. That is what my client told me, Your Honor. He denies that he exposed himself to anyone.
Your Honor, I'd just like to reiterate that the Marshall surveillance actually did capture the defendant flashing customers on that day.
He has a history of that though, and he's 44.
Right. It's going to be a $2,000 good bond. No further contact with Mr. Hope. Stay away from the Marshalls on Piedmont Road. No drugs, alcohol, or weapons while out on bond.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. I think that concludes today's calendar. Ms. Bridgewater, when you are You ready?
Okay, I'm ready. Okay, I was a little late coming on, but for the benefit of those who do not know, the reset date for the SAP calendar is going to be March the 28th. Position number 1 is reset to the SAP calendar with a $5,000 good bond. Position 2 is reset further notice with a $3,000 SOB through pretrial per judge. Position 3 is reset further notice with a total $2,000 SOB through the jail. Position 4, reset further notice with a $5,000 SOB through the jail. Position 5, reset further notice with a $3,000 SOB through the jail. Position 6, reset further notice, $3,000 SOB through the jail. Position 7, reset further notice with a total $2,000 SOB through the jail. Position 8, reset further notice with a $3,000 SOB through pretrial per judge. Position 9 is going to the SAP calendar with a $4,000 good bond. Position 10, reset further notice with a total $2,000 SOB through the jail. Position 11 is reset to the SAP calendar with a $2,000 good bond. Position 12, reset further notice with a $3,000 SOB through the jail. Position 13 is going to the SAP calendar with a total $1,000 good bond. And position 14, reset further notice with a $2,000 SOB through the jail. Are there any questions, comments, or otherwise? Okay, I anxiously await those MHET orders. Okay.
All right. Thank you all. I appreciate it. I will see you tomorrow. Have a good afternoon.
Okay, bye-bye,
Thank you,
everyone.
Your Honor, you too.
Good day.